not, that was not on purpose at all. Oh man.
No, it's all good.
Good
Hey,
thing
we're
it was
live. This is
before.
great. Guys, Jethro just flicked me off. We're going
No.
3-2, and then, it's, but it's all good. It's all good. We're
Oh
great friends. It's all
man.
good. We know I was just playing around. So, today is Tuesday Q&A, and so you know that Jethro and I like to do this regularly when we can clear out our schedules. And yeah, Jethro Jones, Transformative Principal. This is Danny Sunshine Bauer, Better Leaders, Better Schools. And here's the question. It comes from an anonymous source in Reno, Nevada. I do know the guy's an assistant principal, but he writes, we have students who are very trauma impacted and many homeless students. We are our PBIS school. We use many different practices and strategies to help our students with their situations, yet they continue to behave quite awful. We have a mindful moment room and place of detention, a social worker, 2 counselors, and 2 administrators. We go into classrooms constantly to support any other good ideas out there to help our students. I'm the AP and have great relationships with the kids, yet there's a handful of kids that we can't seem to reach. So Jethro, boom, that's a big one. How are you going to respond?
Man, that is a big one, and it seems like it's one that not just this listener is dealing with in Reno, Nevada, but that people are dealing
Right.
with all over the place. And so it's a widespread issue where students are having more and more trauma and they're coming to school presenting with those things, and it's really tough. So we got to figure out a way to deal with this. And there's so much in that question that was really great, like having a mindful moment room and having a
Yes.
social worker. Those things are huge, and really, there's just so much. So I think if I were to just narrow it down to just one thing, I would say that you've really got to adjust your um, discipline procedures to make it so that you're dealing with the issue first, and the issue that's causing them to have those issues first, and then
Mm,
adding in whatever consequences or whatever you do. So you can't change the fact that a student um, has a difficult home life. That doesn't, we can't do anything about that, but we have to address that and empathize with it first before we move to discipline. What are your thoughts?
well, yeah, just to reflect, I want to make sure I'm hearing it right to unpack that for the listeners or the viewers. Like you're saying to deal with the root causes is what I'm hearing. Is that true?
Yeah, so you want to deal with the root causes, but not just like think that you can like overcome them, but
Hmm.
how what's the best way to say this? Like you've got to recognize them, empathize with the students, and then help them overcome those. So, you can't fix the kid's home life, but you've got to
Right.
recognize it and see where they're coming from, and then go from there.
Cool. Yeah, I'm in alignment with you there. I think that's really important, especially that empathy piece. And here's the thing: kids know, adults know too. They know if you care or not, right? And so it's really important that they understand that you care, you love them, and that you empathize with that position. I agree with Jethro that we can't change their reality, right? If they're homeless, it's not like I can buy them a home and give them a home, and that might not even just solve it. There might be other complex issues which is causing the challenges that they're facing, right? So we're not in necessarily that business, but one thing I think we can do as schools is consider the partnerships, um, the different types of support systems available within the community. So maybe there's some different types of nonprofits that do assistance, right, for people that are, living in transition or they finding themselves homeless, right? So that's something. Churches often provide a lot of support too. And then there's other businesses that just might want to chip in and figure out like how can we help, right? And so, I want to challenge the person who wrote this and then everybody that's going through this type of situation to reach out and look at those partnerships, nonprofits, churches, and businesses. And are there, relationships you can build there that could potentially just increase the support that we have, around the kids? So that's something that I'm thinking. Going back to the mentorship piece, and actually before I get there, You said way to go with the mindful moment room. So I want to encourage who wrote this and then everybody viewing. You're already doing a lot. Okay. So kudos to you for thinking about discipline in a different way, understanding that, listen, if a kid is homeless, right, and they're coming to school and it's just been a challenging day, they're coming hungry and that kind of stuff. You think giving them the detention is going to change their behavior? Heck no, right? So, think about what is their first touch point when they come in the building. What do you want that experience to be? And you and I, we're both business owners as well as school leaders, and so you got to think. You got to think more broadly in terms of what is the client experience, what is the student experience, the parent experience, etc. And there's a lot of places that do that really well. So, like Zappos, for example, I love buying shoes from them when I lived in the U.S. And that's because they make the whole shoe shopping experience really fun. And they're genuinely extremely helpful. And they coach their people that if you give them a call, they're gonna really listen to what it is you're asking and try to build a little mini relationship during that time you have with them. So going back to the discipline piece, that kid's had a frustrating, challenging night, morning, maybe they didn't sleep very well, they're hungry. And you can't just like smash them with the 2x4 as they walk through the doors. So the writer of this question, I know they're not doing that, but have you gone to the deep, deep level of intentionality to make the school experience so compassionate, so warm, so loving, that when they walk through the doors, do they feel it? Do they feel it right away? And then are you starting to take care of some of those needs? I know you are. You Title I school. You probably have free breakfast and that kind of thing. But I'm talking about, are the kids excited just to be home, so to speak, when they walk through that door and they're just super excited to be there? So that's something that I was thinking about in terms of touch points. Just a couple other things super quick. Think about mentors. So I don't see that from the person who wrote this question, but are there any type of mentors? Jethro, you're out of the show. No, I'm just like,
I just had to turn off my heater because it's really loud, but I'm
woo,
back.
he's back. He's back, y'all. But in terms of mentors, so going back to the churches, nonprofits, businesses, but within the school too, it's all about relationships. And I can hear the frustration a bit in this question that there's a handful of kids we can't seem to reach, or the line where it says, yet they continue to behave quite awful. Well, it's all about relationships, right? And so, what are you doing to build solid relationships with your students, so that they know they're cared for and that they matter as little human beings. And then finally, you're playing the long game. You might not be the one who sees their behavior change. And I forget if this person said they're in elementary school or not. But even if you're in a high school, the seeds that you plant, the relationships you build, the efforts that you put in, that might bear fruit in a year, in 4 years, in 5 years. It might not bear fruit until they're an adult. But I guarantee right now that you're making a difference, and just stay the course. It's frustrating that some of the behaviors still suck, but believe me, you're making an impact. Don't give up.
Yeah, my social worker in Kodiak, Tara, who was just amazing. She would always say, when it comes to students with trauma backgrounds, we still have the same expectations for them. We just have to recognize that it's going to take them longer to reach our expectations. And when she said that, it took me a while to really grasp the power of that, because what it forces you to do when you're doing that is change your the way you deal with the frustration of them not meeting your expectations. So instead of you saying, okay, here's this issue, you need to do this right now, you start to recognize, okay, here's this issue, you're going to get to this point, but until you get to that point, there's still so much room for you to grow, and so many things that you're going to struggle with, and so many different ways that things are not going to work out. That's okay to deal with, but you've just got to change your perspective and say, as as soon as you meet this expectation, I'm going to be super stoked. But until you do, I'm going to have patience, and I'm going to keep teaching and keep going through the process to help you be successful. And an interview on my podcast that talked a lot about this is with Terry Barilla. who, if you've seen that movie Paper Tigers, she's like the woman behind making Paper Tigers work, and that's episode 177. So if you go to transformativeprincipal.org/episode 177, you'll be able to hear what she has to say, and she's done amazing work specifically with this, and helping schools figure out how to deal with that. So that would be another thing to add.
Cool. I appreciate you sharing that resource. You said episode 177, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so check that out at transformativeprinciple.org, and that's episode 177. And something I thought about too, you talked about the frustration that we might feel. So in the mastermind, we read something called Never Split the Difference. And that's also an idea there's also been discussed in the book we're reading right now called Thinking Fast and Slow. But communication is really, and I don't remember the percentages, but it's like 10 to 15% the words we use. Okay. Then there's another bigger portion that it's actually the enthusiasm, right? The tone of our voice. That's a bigger portion of it. But the majority of communication are our
Right.
non-verbals.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, going back to the touch points, but I want to, highlight this frustration piece. you know, what does your face say when these students are continuing to behave poorly, or you have this handful of students, right? So you see them coming down the halls. Exactly. Do you have a scowl on your face? Or are you smiling? Like, they know, like, there's science, there's research that the cells in our bodies, like, actually receive that energy you're putting out. Okay. I'm not trying to be, metaphysical and weird and whatever. Like, it's true. Like, we are able to pick up on the communication, all that kind of stuff. So you really got to do a gut check and explore your inner world in terms of how you're feeling based on, these students. And so that's something I would think as well. Like, what is your face saying? What are the nonverbal cues, the communication you're giving the students, especially when they violate, some type of expectation? Because they're going to pick up on that. And then the last thing I want to say is, what are you doing with the staff, right? So I can tell that this assistant principal in Reno, Nevada, has a huge heart for the kids, and he's building awesome relationships with them. I don't doubt that at all. But that's just one person, right? This is a team effort. So it's important that the kid knows there's at least one adult that cares about me in this building. But if you had a team, right, that was like this all together in every class that they went to, and again, touch into that nonverbal point that I just talked about, like, if every staff member has that compassion, has that positive energy, and they're getting it everywhere, again, I think you're going to make a big difference in the long haul.
Yeah. I got to share a real quick story about this because when you do it right, then amazing things happen. And we worked a lot at this at my last school, and had a few students that had a lot of trauma at home, and it was really challenging. And one of those students left our school for a while, as sometimes happens when kids have trauma. They don't have stable home lives, and this student is definitely the kid who you would say their behavior is just continually worse and worse all the time. Even with all the great things we were doing, they were still majorly struggling. And this student, we had worked with this kid. We had the high expectations, but we knew that he wasn't going to reach those for quite some time. And then he moved away. And honestly, the adults breathed a sigh of relief because he took so much time and was so
Mm,
challenging. But when he came back to our school, as often happens, he came back
hmm
and I went up to shake his hand to say welcome back, and he hit my hand out of the way and he gave me a big hug.
Give you a hug. I
Yeah,
knew it. I knew that hug was coming.
totally. And like, did he never make a mistake again? No. He was still super challenging, but he knew that we cared about him and that we were going to go the extra mile to make sure that he knew that he was valued at our school. And because of that, he worked a little bit harder than he had before. And we could have super blunt conversations when he, knocked over a kid because he was running through the hall. Then
Right.
instead of us being like, now, you need to really try to be better, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you can't be knocking kids over. And he'd say, "Oh, you're right." And then he'd
Yeah.
run away, you know? It's like, no, don't run still. But like, you have the expectations, you still review it, but because the relationship is there, then you can really make an impact. And that's definitely what happened with that kid.
It's awesome. And again, you're playing the long game. So, hey, let's wrap this up. There's a couple points that I want to make, and then I'm actually talk about Transformative Leadership Summit. But number one, listen, we're fired up today. Okay, I think this Q&A was straight fire. And if you want your Q&A, or excuse me, your question answered, go to betterleadersbetterschools.com/questions, and you can submit it there. Jethro and I will show up on a Tuesday and get to your question. It takes about 3 minutes to fill out. What's your question? Your name if you want to shout out where you're from. So it's really that easy. So that's number one. So submit your questions, betterleadersbetterschools.com questions /questions. Number two, listen, if this fired you up just watching this, imagine working with Jethro and I in one of our masterminds where we have, mind blown, I know, where we have amazing school leaders literally from around the world, where we attack questions like this. But instead of just hearing from the experts like Jethro and I, you can connect with 10 to 12 of your peers, let's say, within a group. You say, hey, this is what we are facing at our school. And you're getting that perspective. You're getting those resources. You're getting questions asked to you and challenged by your peers. And now you're walking away so much more equipped to deal with that challenge and better serve the community in which you're hired to serve. So you could get more information from Jethro, transformativeprincipal.org/mastermind. And for me, it's up there on the video.
That's
Or
the best.
you can or you can go to my page, betterleadersbetterschools.com /MM. It's like, that's so funny. I love it. Listen, we just want you to sign up. We don't care if you're working with Jethro or us, myself. There are so many school leaders out there in the world. We just want you to plug in and connect. You deserve it. You need to invest in yourself. And then last but not least, the Transformative Leadership Summit is coming up. I do have the link to sign up for early bird pricing right here. I don't know where it is for you, Jethro. But I'm going to hand it over to you here, and then let's close out the show. But yeah, tell us a bit about the Leadership Summit.
Well, those of you who have been around for a while know that we've done this before, all the way back to 2016, and it is an awesome summer conference that you don't have to leave your house for. And imagine going to a conference and learning from amazing people, but then
In your pajamas.
in your pajamas, people, pajamas. So you can check that out at transformativeleadershipsummit.com or gum.co/TLS 2018. And that's a way to go and get started early on it. And I've got around here somewhere check this out. This is the month of, what is it, June? So
June.
yeah, you may not be able to see it too well, but I got a few webinars on here scheduled of things that we're going to do to talk about empowerment, parent empowerment, student empowerment, teacher empowerment, administrator empowerment. And some people think that because it's called the Leadership Summit, it's only for leaders. That is not the case. Everybody in a school is a leader in one way or another. And so I invite you to hit that link, transformativeleadershipsummit.com, and check it out. Get on the list right now so that you can help make your school even better for everybody who's there.
Great. So cool. We'll be hopping on next Tuesday, and I might be doing some Facebook Lives the rest of the week. But listen, if you got any value from today's Q&A with Jethro and myself, do 4 things for us right now. Share this post, like the post, leave a comment, and make sure you click follow or subscribe. This is Danny Sunshine Bauer from Better Leaders, Better Schools, and Jethro Jones from the Transformative Principal. Have a great day.